In this guide, you're going to learn some of the most incredible techniques Faker is using to crush anyone he meets in solo queue. We're going to show you things you would never notice by yourself when watching Faker, and teach you how to adopt some of his best strategies in your own games which nobody else will ever do or think about, unless of course you watch this guide. You'll also have your chance to test your skills and see if you can identify the almost invisible skills Faker uses to win that 99% of LoL players wouldn't be able to even see. There are 3 techniques that go into Faker's gameplay that we'll be covering today, but it's important to remember that these techniques can only be applied after you've mastered the proper fundamentals. It's not just about outplaying opponents with flashy techniques. The best players are capable of taking every small advantage and suffocating the enemy laner with it. That's exactly what we'll show you how to do over at Skillcapped, where we'll teach you when the enemy gives you an inch, how you can take a mile. We've studied how to teach you in the best ways possible because our goal is to save you time. If you watch just one of our courses a week, on average you will climb 5 divisions, and if you don't climb, you get your money back. With everything to gain and nothing to lose, Skillcapped is by far the best way to climb in League of Legends. Check it out using the link below and get the rank you've always wanted. But first, let's see just how bad Faker's making this lane for himself. Faker does just about everything wrong. At the start of the lane, Faker gives Talon a free angle to land an easy W on both himself and the minion wave. This is a concept called a double value spell that we talk about on our site. Trading is not just about damage, but also to secure wave control so that you can continue to harass in the future. Giving your opponent a double value spell like this for free is not great. What Faker should do is either try to tether in and out to bait Talon's W first, or he needs to try and bait Talon to only use W on him. Meanwhile, he focuses on hitting the wave. Instead, he's down HP, the push, and lost his bone plating for no reason. Even Faker isn't a perfect player. On top of that, he tanks another full W from Talon. Things aren't going great, and it only gets worse. Faker charges up his 3rd Q on the wave and once again tries to trade. Another huge miss. Thankfully, he manages to walk away without taking too much damage, but things are not looking good. Both players are now rushing for level 2. Faker makes sure to auto this creep and Q to build up his knockup again. He then makes a final mechanical misplay, thinking that Talon would walk up. The goal was to hit Talon and the minion, hit 2, and then trade, but he sadly misses again. Talon read this of course and is now in prime position to punish Faker. Every single mistake Faker has made so far is about to be irrelevant though, as he's going to abuse one of the most underrated concepts for a laner, and is something you can easily apply as well by simply pressing a button. While watching the all-in, which lasts 10 seconds, see if you can spot the first fight-winning play Faker makes. Okay, that fight was intense, but did you spot the first fight-winning play he made? If you thought it was his insane Q flash, then you'd actually be wrong. He did something else that would result in him being dead before the Q flash if he didn't do it. It's nearly always the invisible plays that matter more, which is the inspiration behind this guide. Let's slow this down so you can see. Talon casts W and lands both parts, which means he can go in with Q and auto. But he's smart and is waiting out Faker's shield so he doesn't waste damage. Faker reads Talon's intentions and holds his exhaust for the exact frame when he starts his animation. This is perfect timing to get full value out of the exhaust. Take a look at the result. As the exhaust is just now about to wear off, Talon goes for one final auto attack, which also gets reduced in damage. And now, as you all know, Faker barely lives with a measly 5 HP left. Looking back, Talon had a ton of advantages in this fight. He'd spent the entire lane poking Faker down, got his bone plating for free, and dodged the engage that led up to the all-in. The only real decider in this fight was actually the summoner spells, because while Faker used his exhaust perfectly, you may not have seen, Talon actually messed up his ignite. He has a bad habit that many lower elo players have as well, igniting way too late in a fight. Players are too afraid of wasting their summoner spells if it might not result in a kill, but summoner spells are extremely powerful, and pressing them at the correct moment can make or break your all-ins. Remember, ignite has a healing reduction effect. If you're going to take a big fight on your opponent, then just send it to stop healing. With things like health potions, Omnivamp from Doran's Blade, and healing from runes, a better time to ignite easily would have made the difference here. Once again, Faker did only live with 5 HP. Summoner spells are some of the most poorly utilized resources in the games, especially in the lower brackets. For example, when it comes to Ghost, we see players only ever press it to get in range or to get away from someone, but it's often correct to press it just to run around faster when you're in a fight, potentially to dodge spells or space out auto attacks. Or players who only press heal when they're about to die, but by then you're probably already ignited. Exhaust is probably the worst one. So often we'll see players only use it when they're low and panicking. Like Faker, you should be waiting for the animation of important spells or auto attacks and then reacting to that, rather than just throwing out your exhaust at a random moment. Summoner spells are game-changing by design, so they deserve to be studied and perfected, which is why this is the perfect moment to mention you can unlock our exclusive Summoner Spells course at Skillcapped, where we teach you the insane techniques you can use to get way more value, which are seriously overlooked. It's packed with advanced tips similar to what we've just shared, but goes much deeper, offering exclusive information that you simply won't find anywhere else. The course is a game changer you didn't know you needed, and our community are honestly shocked by what they learned about this underrated skill. Once you watch it, it will change the way you use summoner spells in every game you play moving forward. That alone is some serious value, let alone our other exclusive courses you get access alongside our rank up guarantee. Sign up now with the limited time summoner spells discount link in the description below if you're serious about climbing. Anyways, with summoner spells out of the way, let's see what Faker does next, which has even bigger results. But first, let's play a game. We want to see if you can guess which player in this next match is Faker. We'll give you a hint. Faker is playing extremely well at all stages of this lane, contrary to what you saw in the first clip. So far, between these two mages, the lane is going fairly even. That is, until this moment. Orianna aggressively uses the rest of her mana and tanks free damage so she can push this wave and recall. Then, she teleports back to lane. From here, she makes use of her resource advantage and begins aggressively zoning. Azir still has teleport, but this definitely feels pretty bad for him at the moment. Alright, time's up. From this position, if you had to guess, which player would you think is Faker? The Azir or Orianna? We're sure many of you felt weirdly about this. Orianna clearly has a lot of pressure, so is this a trick question? Is Faker the Azir who is on the back foot? Well, that's exactly right. He's done something you probably don't ever think about that has him winning his lane in a way most players don't see. As a general rule, you never want to be the one to base first in mid. There's some exceptions of course, but being the player to recall first almost always leads to very frustrating issues. Let's say you do teleport first, like this Orianna. She has opted into this and now feels forced to shove Faker out of lane ASAP, but she's put the pressure on herself. Think about it. If she keeps playing normally and lets Faker farm up for longer, he gets to take a recall and teleport back to lane, spending much more gold than Orianna did. Their total gold earned would be even, but his current spent gold would be much higher. With such a big item lead, he'd be able to take control over the lane and or the map. This is why you see Orianna playing so aggressively. There's so much pressure on her to trade right now, while Faker knows he can just sit back and keep farming, knowing the longer he delays basing, the more he'll buy. In League, you always want to avoid limiting your own options as much as possible. If you've only got one or two good moves, then you become predictable and easy to punish. Such is the case with this Orianna. Faker is playing so far back that she feels pressured to walk up far in the lane, which left her vulnerable to a gank for being overextended. Did you see how easy it was to gank Orianna? Now watch how Faker gets the same treatment, but he's easily able to avoid both Poppy and Blitzcrank ganks. It is way harder to punish someone whose job it is to play safe, compared to the person who is forced to play aggressively. Because Faker's only goal was to delay his base as much as possible, he gets to stay for an extra wave, while the Orianna already recalled twice. Let's take a look at their items when both players are back in lane. Their overall gold is close to even, but look how much gold Orianna is sitting on. Who would you rather be? The Azir, of course. Faker's items are so much better, and he's achieved this without even having to do anything. With this power advantage, look how confidently he's playing on the map now. He knows that any 1v1 or 2v2 skirmish is way more likely to work out for his team, because he's way stronger than his opponent just by understanding this recalling rule. In fact, let's watch him do it again, just so you can see how easily he wins lane because of it. Here we see Korean solo queue in its natural habitat, a 5v5 free-for-all at level 1. Now that's high quality League of Legends. No wonder everyone studies this region for how to get better. In any case, let's isolate the mid laners here. Faker and the enemy Yone are both very low and under half HP. Yone chooses to teleport back to lane, meanwhile Faker just stays at this HP. This is similar to the previous game, where one player went back first, while the other stayed in lane, saving their TP. Once again, you see the pressure Yone is under? Look at how he's dropping every mid lane trading fundamental because he needs to force Faker to base. He's walking super far up, trading into the wave, and he seems overall impatient. Problem is, if he doesn't, he'll lose, but this makes his trading very predictable. Faker can just take the trades he deems worthy of his time, but otherwise tries to avoid fighting Yone. Let's fast forward and take a look at the result. Faker started this lane at half HP versus a full resource Yone, but they're actually even now, and this is all because of Yone feeling pressured to be aggressive. So now Faker has control over the lane. He bases, teleports back, and now it's completely game over for Yone from this position. He's down in items, health, and the wave is pushing away. It's GG. In both games, you could clearly see how Faker was put into a dominant position by basically doing nothing. This is a hidden concept that the best players in the world understand, that even challenger players can fail to see. League is a very complicated game. Yes, there are exceptions to this rule. Sometimes the player recalls first will have priority for a random fight going on. But besides those random exceptions, it's usually better to always try and recall after your opponent. You know how sometimes you push a wave, crash, and base? Then your opponent does the same? Yeah, it's typically better for them when that happens. You both end up with the same amount of gold, but your opponent gets to spend 100 100 or 150 extra gold over you. This might be more potions, a control ward, or even an extra component. Then that translates to lane control, letting them base later than you again, which gives them a bigger advantage, which lets them base later again, which gives them a bigger lead. Okay, you get it. The lesson is simple. If you're going to trade recall timings, try to avoid being the one to recall first. The person who gets the second recall timer will almost always be happier with the trade. The reality is though, that it's not just recall timings or summoner spells that make Faker so incredibly good in lane. When players watch high level gameplay, one of the main things they don't realize is that it's not actually superhuman reaction times that allow players like Faker to outplay everything their opponents throw at them. It's actually their ability to anticipate what their opponent is going to do before they even do it that makes them untouchable. To show you how Faker easily replicates this in all of his games, let's hop into this game where he's Neeko versus Syndra. As Neeko, he pushes the wave and moves into the river to see if he can scout anything going on. He hits the vision plant and will now go back to lane. As he passed through to get to lane, he presses W on the exact frame that Syndra tries to stun him and jukes the spell. Is he just a god that can react in milliseconds to his opponents, or was there something he did to guarantee that he could bait that spell out? What do you think happened? What Faker did here is something we're going to coin an ignorance bait, and it's something you can do as well with a bit of practice. Let's break down what he saw and how he could anticipate the exact timing of her stun. The fact that she's not showing on the wave is a very important sign. A lot of mid laners would use the fact that Faker went into river to have access to the wave first. This lets them get the push advantage, which then leads to a roam timer, herald rotation, etc. Syndra not showing means that she's likely in this brush. As we've talked about previously, this is a great way to secure damage on your opponent. Faker has to walk through Syndra to get back to lane, making it very likely she lands harass on him. This means Faker can assume she has a ward here. Take a look at how he plays this. At first he's juking heavily back and forth to avoid her combo, but here's where the ignorance bait comes in. He pretends as if he feels safe now. He's taken proper precautions and pretends he no longer suspects Syndra is in the brush. So he now walks in a straight line for about 1 second. Keep in mind, you need to pretend for about as much time as it would take for your opponent to take this in. So he walks in a straight line for about a second because that's how long it would take Syndra to realize that Faker probably feels safe now. As you can see, it's not reaction speed that made this juke happen. It's just simple game knowledge and anticipation. With Syndra's big cooldown wasted, this gives Faker a lot of freedom in the lane. He can move up to Q her for free poke since she has little way to answer him at the moment. Okay, let's watch him do it again. Pay attention to how he continues to play this lane. He's zigzagging all over the place to avoid any random spells coming from Syndra. But keep in mind that at this health total, Syndra is in lethal range and they both know it. Watch Faker. He was just zigzagging all the time, but now he's in a full 100% sprint directly towards Syndra. He does this for about 1.5 seconds. Again, think about it from Syndra's perspective. Neeko knows she can kill me, so she's desperately running to try and root me. I'll just stun her as a response. This is why this bait works so well. Faker is pretending to be fully tunnel visioned on the kill, completely ignorant of Syndra's stun, and he makes it so believable that his opponent will believe it and press it at this predictable moment every single time. Now she's got a problem. With her stun down, Faker can run directly at her with no fear, but this cannon minion is getting low. What will she do? Admit she's been outplayed and sack the cannon? Of course not. Faker's baits have paid off, he lands his E and takes Syndra down easily. This juke is not only easy to do, but extremely effective, even versus challenger players. How to do it in a wide variety of situations is simple. You just need to find a moment where you can convince your opponent you're not aware of something important. At first, Faker made Syndra believe he thought this bush was clear and he could walk in a straight line. On the second bait, he made her believe he was super tunnel visioned on the kill and was just walking directly into her stun. The more convincing you are, the more likely it is your opponent throws their spell and you can instantly juke out of the way of it. Remember to sign up to not miss out on the Summoner Spells discount and get protected with our rank up guarantee. If you don't significantly climb while actively using skill capped, remember, you get a full refund. So we'll see you there. Thanks for watching.